What's going on, guys? It's your Dirty Nelly. What's going on, guys? This is Donnie, and this is WFMG, bringing you the top stories in black culture, news, and politics. This week, we're going to talk about a lot of shit. Netflix series BLACKAF has been receiving a lot of backlash about its WACKAF status. Does it really live up to the name? We're going to talk about it later on in this video. Boom, blow. So, producer Kenya Barris has done it again with another hit series that has taken the internet and the world kind of by storm. Netflix series BLACKAF highlights his family, or what is supposed to be his family, in a depiction of his life in a day and a time. The story is told through a lens of his daughter is kind of putting together something for film school. I think it's like a application video or something like that, project for her film school, and she's basically documenting her family. The show is kind of getting some backlash because people are saying that it's not black enough. I kind of see what they're saying, but I also kind of get what he's trying to do, and you'll see in a minute. It's all going to become clear. So Kenya Barris was recently on T.I.'s show Expeditiously, where he kind of touched on a topic that I was thinking about before I even watched that interview, and it's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. So PTSS, or post-traumatic slave syndrome, was a term coined by Dr. DeGruy, and the written definition from her words is it's an explanatory theory that really looks at multi-generational trauma on black people.
Yes, so 300 years of trauma, no help, freed, no help, more trauma. If it's a sustained trauma, then the impact of that is also sustained. And what I did was I started to look at the African American experience, starting with slavery, as a real clear, long enduring trauma. So I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African American experience. I started to see common behaviors that I took for granted as, well, cultural.
It's kind of derived off of PTSD, which is a disorder that occurs as a result of a single trauma. How do you cope? How do you integrate into society now that you're free? So we learn all of these behaviors. Some of them are self-destructive things. Some of them are just things that you want to kind of get away from. But it all kind of drums up into this is happening because slavery. Dr. DeGruy sums it up perfectly by saying, once you learn of the trauma that you've endured, you can use that information to help change your life. All of the titles of these series are about slavery. He says that he's going to continue that into season 2, which I kind of can understand now why he's doing that. I thought it was just a overkill of blackness, but there's some truth to everything that he's saying in the titles and what he's not saying in the titles. Episode 1 basically sums up the series and sets the tone of the series, and kind of sets off the family into this lifestyle of flossing and excess, and kids that are kind of rambunctious but not really, mostly just kind of getting used to the rich lifestyle. And I think that's part of what people were finding unrelatable, is like, okay, this is kind of like black goals, but at the same time, these people are like, they have kind of like white people problems, but are handling it in the esque of blackness. I don't even have really words to describe what I felt the first time I watched it versus like the second or third time I watched it. And I'm on both sides of the fence with this, because I feel like it could have been blacker to have a name like BLACKAF, but I also feel like he's showing a side of black people that is trying to move past nigga shit. He's showing a side of black people that have attained something and enjoyed it enough to realize that now this is like extra, and it's kind of like hustling backwards. You get what I'm saying? He's realizing that you know, all of the wealth and how hard he worked and all this stuff, and he has everything that he needs, that he wants, that he could ever dream of, but now he's kind of like second guessing it. But nah, he talks about all that in the series, and I think it's put together pretty well. I do think that there are things that could have been blacker about it. Like, for instance, there was no talk from the parents to the children about, when we go up in here, don't act crazy, don't do this, don't yell. Little to no parental oversight. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know any kids who have been able to go on a trip to another country and steal a golf cart and like run around and like do crazy wild shit. I mean, it just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. Sorry. Rich or not. Rich or not. And to blow it up and set the shit on fire, like, that shit is not believable. I mean, I know that it took some liberties because it's a show and because it's Netflix and because it's yada yada yada, it's this and blah, but these kids don't fear their parents, you know what I mean? And I think it's because of the money. Maybe it's because they're rich and just that's a rich thing, but like a lot of the things you would expect for black kids and black people to do, they're not doing it. So I don't know if Black AF was the right title. Like, I keep coming back to the fact that the title is Black AF, and I just feel like we were clickbaited. You know, I don't know. I feel like the way that the parents interacted with the children was very laissez-faire, and I kind of grew up in a laissez-faire house style as well, but there was still those strict moments where the parent would get the child together. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't see any of that in this show. If he would have named it something else, nobody would be giving it backlash. It would still be, it could be the same way, shot the same way, the same points and all that. But if it was titled something other than Black AF, it would have been perfect. Another part of backlash, which I thought was a little bit strange to be backlash for this series, is there was a colorism thing that came up about all of the people in the cast member being of light complexion. I mean, I understand people's reaction to not seeing darker complected tones on camera and in shows and things like that, because that has been used against us negatively in the past. But in the context of this show, it's about his family, and his family is lighter complected people, so they chose actors who are also lighter complected. I don't see anything wrong with that. People still nonetheless have complained about it. So let's talk about the topics that they actually did talk about in the series that I think that they put together very well. There was a part of the series where they talked about adultification of black girls. Now, this has been something that has been kind of fucking with me for a very long time. I mean, they do it to black people automatically. They just assume the worst of us, but they really assume the worst of black females and about black young girls. To be honest, the treatment that a black young girl would get out and about from police is not the same treatment a young white girl would get at the same age, and we all know this. They did a good job with adultification. They did a good job with explaining peacocking and how black people, you know, dressed in their Sunday's best to be accepted into American culture and into white culture. So that was a good one. They talked about mass incarceration. They talked about black fine art. They talked about good music. They talked about self-destructive behavior. They talked about slavery, PTSS, a lot of stuff. And I was pretty pleased the third time I watched it, or the second time I watched it, because now I caught all the things that I was missing before. And there's a lot of satire, and there's the funniness of the immediate message, but then there's also a message behind the message that a lot of people don't seem to be catching. And I feel like season 2, they should probably do a better job with trying to incorporate more black scenarios. Like, if they just add a little bit of black slangness to it, slangtivity, or you get what I'm saying? The swag that we talk with as black people, like if they add a little bit of that to it, I feel like it's gonna be better and it's gonna come off more authentic. So all in all, I have to give this show a B+, because although I didn't get what I really wanted from the show, and I don't feel like it lived up to the name, there is a lot of good that this show can do, especially on a platform like Netflix, and especially with the mass audience that Netflix have. this show is probably going to be a hit for many more seasons. They have kids on the show that are probably going to grow up on the show after season 6, season 7. Who knows? We just pray for all of the actresses and actors that are on that show. We hope that they get the scripts together and that you guys don't get canceled. Please. Please, please, please. Because I feel like this show can do a lot of good. All right, y'all, that's all we have for this video. Please tune in next week because we're gonna drop more content. We're gonna keep dropping them. I was a little bit slacking off last week because coronavirus was scaring the shit out of me and all my anxiety was like, but this week, I'm back. Okay, baby? I'm back. And I ain't going nowhere. So watch some more videos. Where you going, boy? Where you going? Where you going? Watch some more videos.